all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed on a Saturday morning. What? We're so thankful that you're committed to your family, educating them in a new and different way, and I feel like we're like the Home Depot. You can do it and we can help.
Yeah.
So you're in the right place. And my dear, lovely friend here, Allison, has all the tips and tricks, and if she doesn't, she'll find it. So she's great like that. And she has many years of teaching experience in a classroom. She has years teaching in a homeschool setting. She has 3 amazing kids, 2 here on earth, 1 waiting in heaven. And yeah, she's an evaluator. If you need an evaluator, she's got your back. She's amazing at it. She makes it like super seamless and not nerve-wracking if you're nervous like I am about things. She's a great one to walk you through it. She's beautiful. She's funny. She's a dear friend, and she is going to really equip you and make this feel attainable. So you've got this. We're going to help you. And yeah, here we go. Here's Allison.
All right. I'm assuming everyone can hear me. Hopefully I'm not too loud. I was like, they're going to give me a microphone? I can shout for a while. But, so this is Homeschooling 101. And I was a traditional classroom teacher, so I didn't really even think about homeschooling until I started to have kids and really realized that this was like a very beneficial environment or a beneficial way to educate my children. So I started researching more. Some of my friends were involved with homeschooling, and that's kind of how I got my journey, which I can probably say that many of you probably like knew someone that was homeschooling and you wanted to learn a bit more about it, like what that was like, and that was the draw. But this Homeschooling 101 is really, I'm gonna give you the necessary information that you need so that you can file your paperwork, so that you feel confident in your first year of homeschooling, and that you're not too overwhelmed, that you feel ready for that evaluation at the end of the year. So Sarah did say a little bit about me. I am a former teacher. I taught middle school. I homeschooled 2 kiddos. I have Ryan, who's 4, and Isabel, who is 7. So this is like our first official homeschool year on the books, despite the fact that I've been homeschooling her since preschool. I do work at various co-ops, so I am a teacher at a co-op called SHAPE. I help run a STEAM club, a local STEAM club that meets at Indian Valley Library, and next year I'm very honored to take on a position at Hayden Learning Village in Ambler as one of their on-site directors. And then lastly, I'm a homeschool evaluator, so I can help you out. I can evaluate grades K to 12. And something that I love to do, and that is my passion, is helping new families get started. So if someone says, I have this friend, they're very nervous, they don't know how to get started, they're worried, I'm like, just give them my number. Give them my number, let's have a talk, and by the end of our conversation, I feel like they feel a lot better. They're equipped with the knowledge that they need to start their homeschool journey. So when I was asked to do this workshop, I was like, how should I set this whole presentation up? And what I thought was the best way to do it would be to think about all the questions that I had as a new homeschooler and then put them in a presentation for you. So if there is a question that doesn't come up in the presentation today that you're very interested in learning about, you can either ask it at the end, or I have a bunch of handouts in the pews for you. You can take one of those home with you, email me, text me, call me, and like Sarah said, if I don't know the information, I will find it for you, okay? Okay, so we'll get started with some basics. Understanding homeschool law. So you can, of course, read all of the homeschool law, and I would recommend at some point going through that, but I'm gonna break it down for you so that it's a lot easier to understand. Okay, so what age should you register your child for homeschool? So they need to be 6 going into the homeschool year. So if you have a 5-year-old, they don't turn 6 until, let's say, October or November. That is not a year that you're going to have on record with the school district, okay? You'll file every year from the time that child is 6 until they are 18 with your district, okay? Who can be a supervisor, or who can teach your child? So in the state of Pennsylvania, a supervisor is one of the parents. If you do bring in a tutor to assist you in your child's studies, that tutor would need to send in their criminal background check as well as a Pennsylvania teaching certificate. Okay. But typically, us homeschool parents, you know, we get ready, we get all our materials together, and we go for it. So, but legally, if you would get a tutor in, you would have to send in that paperwork. Okay, so what is an affidavit? So, there are 3 main pieces of paper that you need to send in to the school district every year, okay? The first piece of paper is the affidavit, which I'm going to talk about right now. That is a piece of paper notifying the school district that you are going to homeschool. That's basically what it is. My husband was saying, like, affidavit, is that, you know, like, that scares me, like, that's like illegal. I was like, it's just letting the school district know that you are going to be homeschooling. So the affidavit, I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Your objectives and your evaluation are the 3 pieces of paper that go into the school district at the end of the year. And the funny thing about that is Pennsylvania is a more regulated state, right? If we look at all the states in the 50 states in the union, but those are the 3 main pieces of paper that your school district needs to see. That's it. Okay. So the affidavit is telling the school district that you are going to homeschool that year. It has the supervisor's name on it. It has your kids' ages and their names. It has things like you attesting to teaching your child in English that year. It has, that doesn't mean that you can't teach bilingually, but you're attesting that the homeschool program will also be taught in English. It has you attesting to the fact that your child has received medical care and that it is on file somewhere. Okay, and it also has you attesting to the fact that you're not a criminal. Okay, so those are the main things on the affidavit. All right. When is it due? So if you are a first-time homeschooler, you've never filed before, it is due by September 1st. That is the date that you want to remember, but it's also on that paper that I put in each of the pews for you. Okay, so September 1st. My affidavit and my objectives that I'm going to talk about next are due to the school district, okay? If you are a recurrent homeschooler, so you homeschooled for 1 year, the next year your paperwork is due by August 1st, okay? So you have a little bit of a longer time to file that you're going to be homeschooling your first year as opposed to following years after that, okay? Some people, when they go and get their end of year evaluation done, that paperwork, your evaluation is due on June 30th, July 4th, but it needs to be completed by June 30th. And then a lot of people, July 1st really, but a lot of people will send their evaluation, their affidavit, and their objectives in for that year, the following year all together, okay? And that way you don't even need to talk to the school district until the end of the year. And by talk, I mean send in paperwork. Okay. You also need to make sure that that affidavit is notarized, okay? There is something called an unsworn declaration. I think the unsworn declaration came about more so during the time period when we were experiencing COVID and people were not going to get affidavits notarized, okay? But I have told some parents that come to me like in the middle of the year or something, they're like, I want to pull my kid out and I want to do it fast. I'm like, well, just pull that unsworn declaration off of, I have a page where you can find it, and just fill that out and send that in with your objectives, okay? So, first piece of paper that goes in, I'm gonna just repeat myself over and over again, the affidavit, okay? The second piece of paper that's gonna go in are your objectives. Okay, what are my objectives? My objectives are my goals. Just like in a traditional classroom, teachers have goals that they need to meet for their students every year. It's the same for your homeschool. However, I urge all of you, make your homeschool objectives general. Don't look at the whole math let's say you're using a math book that year or something. Don't look at the whole math book that you want to use for your first grader and write down every single objective in the whole book and send that to the school district. Write a very general objective. Like I have, well, you can't really see it up there, can you? But like improve computation skills, master new skills as they're introduced, okay? If you go to my Facebook page, on there, there's a set of objectives that you can look at. You could take literally that paper that I have in my file section, save it, and modify it, and use that. Many people take their objective sheet and just send it in the next year, the same as it was, okay? So I don't want you to get overwhelmed thinking, oh my gosh, I gotta write all these objectives, okay? You could probably even Google homeschool objectives and get a good sample of what people write, okay? So we've covered two pieces of paper that are going in, the affidavit and the objectives. The affidavit's notarized. That goes in an envelope, it's addressed to the superintendent of the school district, you send that in. I would highly recommend making sure that you send it in with some kind of return receipt, unless you are personally dropping it off. If you're personally dropping it off, get something written saying, I dropped this paperwork off, okay? Like even in my school district, which is Satterton, I sent in my paperwork and I sent that, and I knew they got it because I got a return receipt. But I even sent an email like, did you get my paperwork? Because I did not get a message from anyone saying that they had received it, okay? So it really depends on, I guess, like how strict it varies district to district. Some are like overreaching. They want, they want to have more oversight into what you're doing. But really all they need is that affidavit, objectives, and then eventually we'll get to the last piece of paper, which is your evaluation form. Okay, so when I say like, how would you write the objectives? I would recommend just writing very general ones and using like a resource to do that or examples, unless you have something very strict in your head that you wanted to say. Okay, I like this graphic because a lot of people say, well, how much time do I need to dedicate to homeschooling? So we have to remember, like when kids are in a traditional classroom, there's a lot more going on than instruction, right? Okay, one teacher is teaching a room full of kids. There may be behavioral issues, they might be setting up materials, they're getting in the classroom, in and out and ready. When you look at this chart, it might be shocking because it's way less time than you would typically dedicate that would be in a traditional classroom. Personally, for my daughter, Isabel, she's 7. So we do most of our language arts and math at home. A lot of the other subjects are at our co-ops that we go to, okay? Will that change as she grows? Probably. But right now, my main concerns for her are math and language arts. We do that at home. We do that daily. Sometimes we do it even before we go to co-op. And I would say it takes us typically about a half an hour to 45 minutes. I would say more on the half-hour side if she's being very cooperative that morning. Okay. But so you're not going to spend all day. Like sometimes when people think of homeschooling, they think, oh my gosh, I'm going to be at a table for 6 hours with my kid. That's not how it's going to be. Okay? Or it can be that way if you want it to be that way. You make this journey what you want it to be for your child. You teach your child how you want to teach your child. You're not sending them to a school building for the school to teach them the way they want to teach them. That is what is awesome about homeschooling. You decide what you want your child to learn. You decide how you want your child to learn it. Okay, so the required subjects. When you saw that objective sheet that I had up there with all the different subjects and like all the different objectives broken down under subject, the funny thing about it is you don't need to teach all of these subjects every year. It's not required by law to teach all of them every year. They don't all need to be on your objective list. Do many families still do it? Yes. Okay. What the law says is that you need to teach these subjects sometime between A, in 6th grade. Would I skip years of math instruction for my own daughter? Personally, no, okay? But a lot of these things we fit into daily life, right? Music, listening to different types of music, art, just doing different artistic things at home, our phys ed, the sports that the kids are in. So a lot of this fits into our daily life to begin with. But the evaluator will make sure that some of these required subjects are things that were taught in the homeschool during the year. The only thing that an evaluator will tell you, and that the state of Pennsylvania will tell you that typically needs to be taught every year, is fire safety, okay? Which it says up there, regular and continuous. And then I've had other evaluators even like be devil's advocate and say like, well, what's regular and continuous? Is it every month? Is it every other month? Is it every year? But it's well recognized that we generally look to see that there's some kind of fire prevention education every year. So that typically is in the portfolio. And that could literally be like a piece of paper that you made like a map of how to get out of the house. Or you can be taking a picture of your kid helping you change the smoke alarms. You know what I mean? Like that's fire prevention. You can, I know some families that are like, I taught my child how to build a campfire and then how to properly handle themselves around the campfire and then how to properly put it out. That's fire prevention. I taught my child how to use the stove. I taught my child how to use the oven and not get burnt or burn down the house, right? So that's fire prevention as well. Okay, so record keeping. This is what some people are really looking for because what do I need to keep? Do I need to keep like this huge binder of all these materials? You can, but you don't need to, okay? I'm going to share with you the main things that I look for when I meet for an evaluation and what types of things I would personally keep as a homeschooler. So one thing that I would definitely have is some kind of way to track my days, okay? You can do 180 days of schooling, just like the school district does, or 900 hours. If you do the math, I think 900 hours turns out to be more time than 180 days, right? Well, my husband was doing the math yesterday, and he was like, why would anyone pick 900 hours over 180 days? But I print out a calendar, and I just mark off the days that I homeschool. And from the day that you start homeschooling till the end of your homeschool year, you need 180 days checked off, okay? Is a field trip day a school day? You bet it is. If you're sending your child to some kind of co-op, is that a homeschool day? Sure. Are they going to see a show somewhere? Is that a homeschool day? Absolutely. So we have a lot of variation, okay? It doesn't need to be the days that I sat at the table with my child and taught them math, okay? It can be any of the days where you feel your child is learning. I mean, there's a whole philosophy of education out there called unschooling, where you learn just by doing every day. What do I want to explore this day? Okay? And they believe, and that's believed to be like, we learn 365 days of the year. So I have way more days in than just 180. Okay? So that's one thing that you want to keep. You also want to keep a log, a reading log, they call it. Actually, in law, they always refer to it as the log. But the log is mainly any reading materials, or even like videos and things like that, that you've used during the year. So for math and reading instruction at my house, we use The Good and the Beautiful right now. Will it change? Might. Will I use something different for my son? Probably, because I can already tell he's probably not going to be able to hang for that. But I put that on my list, and then I would put on any books that I read that year with my children. So anything that they read or anything that we read as a family. Now, those of you that are in the library all the time, you might be looking at me like, how am I going to list every single book that we read during the year? Don't do that. If you can print it out from the library and you really want to do that, do that. But I would then just put like what I used for my curriculum and then some of my kids' favorite books. You don't need to spend time listing every single book that was looked at that year. I mean, I have some kiddos that, it would span 10, 15 pages if they shared every single book that they looked at or read that year. Okay, but you need a reading log. The other thing that I look for are samples of work, student work. So what are samples of student work? Samples of student work are pictures, artwork, if they performed in a concert, if they did cooking at home, and you have pictures of that. Samples of work are literally pieces of paper that you tear out of or just bring the whole book to me. They're a curriculum workbook that they used. So if I was going to go to another evaluator and show them what Isabel did in math and ELA, I would probably pull out a page from the beginning of our book, the middle of our book, and the end of our book. Because really what I'm looking for as an evaluator is that your child has made progress. They have learned something. It's virtually impossible for your children to go through a whole homeschool year and not learn anything, right? So it makes my job pretty easy, to tell you the truth, because all children show progress during the year. I'm not looking that your second grader is at the same level as every other second grader in the state at the end of the year. We all progress differently. As a classroom teacher, were all my kids at the same spot at the end of the year? No. Some kids that I evaluate, the parents tell me, well, they finished let's say they're a second grader. They finished their second grade curriculum in math, so we just started the third grade. But in ELA, we're still in our second grade book or our first grade book, if you're even using a book. So the only thing that I'm looking for at the end of the year is that progress was made. I'm not looking for what books you were using. I'm not here to judge you what you're doing with your child. You are deciding how you want to educate your child. It's not my place. My place is to see that progress was made. And I'm telling you right now, I haven't met a single family in the years that I've been educating, or evaluating rather, that I didn't sign their paperwork. The children naturally progress. That's what they do. They learn every day. Okay, so best way to keep records, like I said, I would keep paperwork that they wrote in. I would take pictures. Some of my families create an Instagram account, particularly for their homeschool journey, or a Facebook account, or some do a PowerPoint presentation, and they just write little blurbs in there. Like they take pictures that they really thought were a good representation of their child's achievement and work during that year, and they just kind of build that as the year goes on, okay? But the bottom line is, when you come in for an evaluation, it's not something to be nervous about, and it's not something that you think you need to bring, all this nice, shiny material for me to see. I mean, I literally have people bring their workbooks to me, and I just look through the workbooks. Because the other thing that I really want to do is interview your child. I want to ask them, did you have a favorite book this year? Did you have a favorite field trip that you went on? These are the questions that I ask. What's your favorite subject? Did you do something really cool in that subject this year that you really enjoyed? Those are the main questions that I'll be asking them. And honestly, I mean, some parents, and I have those written on a piece of paper, when someone asks me to evaluate, I send them an evaluation info sheet, and I tell the parents the exact questions that I'm going to ask. So some parents will prep their kids a little bit, but even if you didn't prep your kids and sent them to me, I promise you they're going to be able to answer the questions, or I'm going to coach them into answering the questions for me, okay? So I also don't want you to leave here feeling nervous about that, because it's nothing to feel nervous about. If anything, it's a day to celebrate. You finished your homeschool year. Your child learned all this information. They're sitting with me and telling me everything that they learned that year. That's a celebration in my mind. Okay, so the state does require you, if you have a child in 3rd, 5th, or 8th grade, to give them a standardized test that year, or not give it to them, that they take a standardized test that year. There are a number of standardized tests that you can choose from, but the main tests that I see a lot come up when I do evaluations or talk to families are things like the California Achievement Test. It's called a CAT test. I don't know if you are familiar with this. A lot of families take that because you can get an online, untimed version of it, okay? So we're thinking about all these homeschoolers that may never have taken a test before, like, how are we gonna sit down and take this test, right? But there's an untimed version of it that, you know, you can take over short periods of time to accomplish. The proctor of that test is the computer. As supervisors and parents of the homeschool child, you can't administer a standardized test to them. It needs to be someone else. So if you choose to purchase, like let's say you choose to purchase the CAT test for the child to take, like, physically, it would have to be proctored by someone like grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, friend, okay? It can't be proctored by you. But the great thing about the CAT online is that the computer is the proctor. And then there's other tests that are actually even in person. There is Natalie J, because I can't say her last name correctly, but she's in the gym today. She is a test administrator of something called the PIAT. It's the Peabody Individual Achievement Test, and that one's done in person. So if you have a kiddo that doesn't want to, like, take something on the computer or a pencil paper test, that's an excellent one to take because she just asks them questions and then at the end she gives you the results. Now, the funny thing about the testing is it doesn't get sent into the school district. No one knows what your child got on that test but you, unless you want me to know. But I'm not judging anybody on that. I don't even need to see the results of the test. All I need to know as an evaluator is that it was taken. How crazy is that? To me, it's a little crazy, right? That no one's seeing it besides you. Would some homeschool parents want to test their child just to see where they are? Yeah, I'm sure there are parents that would want to do that. And that may even decide to do that in other years besides the 3rd, 5th, and 8th grade. But the school district does not get the results, and I just literally need to see, like, I could see, this is an example of what the CAT test puts out. So even if I saw the top of that, like the student's name and things that took it, I would know that it was taken. Okay, so I talked a little bit about evaluations already, but what is an evaluation? The evaluation is essentially a review of your homeschool year to make sure that you met all of the laws that Pennsylvania has, okay? And you have to find someone that is an evaluator, that's certified to be an evaluator to do your evaluations, and there are plenty of us, and especially there might even be some in the gym today, and I'm happy to help you if you need an evaluator as well. But they just go over all of the material that I was talking to you about earlier. Things like your 180 days, your samples of work, the test if it needs to be taken. I will interview your child. All of that is what is conducted at the evaluation. And then you just send in this piece of paper. That's your 3rd piece of paper. So you send in your affidavit and your objective at the beginning of the year. At the end of the year, you make an appointment with me or another evaluator if you're choosing, and they interview your child, they check through your portfolio, they sign that evaluation form, you send that into the district, and you're done. All right? So really what it boils down to, despite Pennsylvania being a more regulated state, what it really boils down to is 3 pieces of paper for your communication with the district. Okay? A lot more is going on in your homeschool, but that's just what the district needs. Okay? Affidavit, objectives, and your evaluation. Okay? Next, I'm going to get into a little bit of like homeschool styles that that are present and that you can kind of guide yourself into if you so choose. But does anybody have a question so far, or questions about any of the paperwork or the evaluation part of it? Yes.
So there's 3 documents that we sent. I know that we sent one for September
First.
So when did we send all 3, or are they staggered?
Okay, so September 1st, you're going to send your affidavit and your objectives together, if that's your first year homeschooling. Every other year, you're sending them by August 1st. The evaluation is sent at the end of the school year, your first year. If you want to continue homeschooling, when you send that evaluation at the end of the school year, you could technically send in your affidavit and your objectives with that end of school evaluation for the following year. Does that make sense? You don't need to, but you can. If you want to just be like, I'm done with it, I just want to send it in with my evaluation, and I don't want to contact or have any communication with the district until the end of the year again.
And is there a date for the evaluation?
So the evaluation needs to be completed and submitted by July 1st. So I always say June 30th, like in my calendar system, because I'm thinking I want to get everyone's evaluation done and in on time. Sure, yes.
Can you elaborate a little more on the supervisor?
Yeah, so supervisor role is just a parent in the, I mean, essentially, it's one of the parents in the home that is on the books as the educator. So I'm the supervisor in my home. Does that mean that my husband can't educate my children, or that I couldn't have like my mom or dad like fill in if I wanted her to complete math or something and she was with them? But the supervisor is the one that's by law controlling the homeschooling journey. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I'm a supervisor for my daughter and she has a friend and her mom like works 9 to 5, has her own curriculum and sends her to my house, can she do like homes,
So-
like can she do her work with me?
She could.
Or-
Yeah,
You know that?
she could send. Yeah, she can send that work with you, and you guys can do it together. But the mom is still technically the supervisor of the homeschool program. Okay. When I was getting into tutors and things like that, that's also if like someone is coming into the home that's completely handling the education of the child, then they would send in the.
'Cause I would not be a tutor, I would just be, you know.
Yeah, help you. You're working through it together.
Helping.
Absolutely.
I don't need a teacher to like sit doing all this.
No, you don't.
Okay.
No, you don't.
Do you do your evaluations virtually or in person?
Both. Yeah. If people live further away, sometimes it's better virtually. I will always say that I like to see the kids in person if I can, just because I think, like, as far as rapport goes and stuff, sometimes it's better, but I do them virtually for many families too.
So I have 2 kind of parts.
Yeah.
So my son, he turned 6 September 7th, which that was the whole thing like last year for 25, not that he was going to public school, but technically he wasn't allowed because of being late in the year. So what does that do with paperwork? Does it really matter? Like I can still turn it in, or would you say like I don't turn it in?
So, I'm sorry, repeat the first part of it again.
So he turned 6 September 7th.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm in this weird little window and I have that.
He turns, so I would say you could do either. It's up to you.
Okay.
If you want it to be on record that year or not.
Yeah.
Technically you don't.
Correct, right. I just wanted to be clear on that. So
Yeah.
legally, I don't have to.
Legally, you do not have to.
And then
Correct.
the other question was the July 1st paperwork.
Yeah.
Even if you were homeschooling your first year that year, would you turn it in by July 1st and start counting your hours? That is something I've read.
Yes,
So like, you don't have to be on school districts, you could literally start 180 days July 1st.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
Yes.
So the first year that they, sorry, turn 6 and you do you write your grades regardless of what you're teaching? Do you write like first grade?
Don't put grades on
Okay.
anything. That's gonna be my recommendation.
Right.
What's that?
How would you determine the testing it for the 3rd grade? Just by the.
It's really you.
Okay.
The parent decides that. Yeah, if you feel like they're 3rd grade level, that's when you would test that. Yeah. Yes.
Do
is 6 years old the pre-K level, or is that the kindergarten level? Because I saw you had.
So it starts at K, whatever you want. So
would a 5-year-old technically fall into the pre-K category?
I mean, in my house, yes. But I think it also depends upon, I mean, you could do K curriculum at home with your 5-year-old if they are ready for it, but you don't need to register them with the district until they are 6. So like my Isabel, when she was registered with the district, she was technically a 1st grader, if that makes sense. Okay? Yes.
In terms of like the receipt that you talked about getting when you submit the paperwork, are you talking like certified mail?
Exactly.
On the envelope?
Yeah, if you send it certified mail, if you drop it off at like the school district's offices, I don't just put it on top of the desk and say, can someone take care of this for me? So you tell them what it is and tell them you want something written to the effect of, this is what I dropped off, and have that person sign their name. So you don't want the district coming back to you later and saying like, you never registered your child is true. You know what I mean? So just make sure would that happen in all cases? Probably not, but you don't want to have that extra worry that it could happen.
Should you keep 2 copies of the paperwork in case they lose
So I always keep a copy of what I send into the district at home in a folder, and then I send in the other one, and then I put I send certified mail, and like I told you, they didn't even, I got that back, but they didn't even say they received the paperwork. So sometimes you're not gonna get a response for them, which is why I want you to send it in certified mail to make sure that you know they received it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yes.
You may have answered my question in the previous one, but when you say contact the district, you're talking about dropping the papers off to like central district offices, not like a guidance counselor in the school or?
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly.
As far as evaluation at the end of the year, and you say it's up to the parents, so say we say 1st grade evaluation, are you going by state standards and kind of going through everything and checking?
On the evaluation?
Yeah, like when you evaluate, what, are you just?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
It's a great question.
Because I was a teacher too, so I know
Yeah.
all those.
Yeah, and some of us that may have, that were previous teachers may even look at what the school district is teaching, just to kind of see, where our child falls with their knowledge. Okay, but like I was saying, homeschool, it's what you want to teach your child, and it's, the journey that you want for your child. At the evaluation, I am not looking at anything like that. I am looking at, I ask my families to bring 10 samples of work. So that could be 10 pictures and description on the Facebook page that they made, to document their homeschool journey. Same thing on Instagram. They bring me worksheet pages to show me progress. The only thing that I'm really looking for is progress. And like I was saying, it's pretty much inevitable that will have to happen.
Is there anything different with evaluations if I'm a certified teacher?
Okay.
Homeschooling my child?
Yeah, so if you're a certified teacher homeschooling your child, you can actually be a private tutor as opposed to following this. And that is different paperwork, and I'm happy to help you with that paperwork. If you reach out to me, I actually do private tutor my daughter. The laws and the rules are different. When you're you send in your certification, you send in your criminal background check, your child abuse check, your fingerprints, all of that. But then there's not as much to do in terms of evaluations and testing and stuff like that. For all of you, so if you have your certification and you want to go that route, some people have their certification and they don't want to go that route. They just rather just send in the paperwork and do it I'm going to call it the regular way, okay? But if you do want to go that route, I'm happy to guide you in that. But if you have your certification, that is a way that you can do it. Although I would say that and this is for a whole nother workshop, but when your child gets to 12th grade, I would not do private tutor option for them. I would do evaluator option, this option, and I would have them evaluated at the end of the school year, and I would do the supervisor issued evaluator signed diploma, unless you are doing like a diploma program, which some people do. I'm assuming that most of you in here are not graduating high schoolers this year. So I'm giving you like the basics of if you were just kind of starting your journey with elementary school students. But I do have a lot on my Facebook page about high school and like what the credits are for high school and how you grade high schoolers if you're personally grading them, and things like that. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, good question. So an evaluator needs to have their certification, a Pennsylvania certificate, and then they also need to have grading experience in a bracketed age group. So typically it's like K to 6 and 7 through 12. They need to have 2 years of grading experience in that age group in order for them to be an evaluator to begin with. So because my background, I had middle schoolers, but I taught 6th grade, and I taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So I have experience with the first bracket, K to 6, and then I have experience grading the second, so then personally I can evaluate K to 12. Oh yeah, so the other part of the question, I put it's called a PPID number, my certification number, on my evaluations. That's not required. I do that because I don't want the parents that I evaluate to be hassled if I'm an appropriate evaluator or not. But it's not like something that you need to put it on there by law. They're assuming that if someone's evaluating that child that they are meeting the requirements. That's the assumption. But I always just put it on there anyhow. They can track me down if they want. I don't care. Yes?
So you can start counting your days from July 1st or from the time you send your affidavit, right?
Yes, so you start counting your days from that date that you have on your affidavit, if you want to start earlier. When I first sent in my private tutor information, I sent it in earlier too, just to tell them my start date, because in my house we school year round. I'm much more lenient in the summer. My daughter's already like, we're not gonna do all this all summer. I said, we're gonna do some, just so you know, it's that whole you don't use it, you lose it kind of thing. Or the summer slide, as they call it. It's true. I mean, even I saw it with my middle schoolers, like asking them basic concepts. So that's why we do it. Does every family need to do it that way? Absolutely not. Maybe they need a summer break. I mean, you're judging by what your kids need. Like, that's what I always say. That's why homeschooling is so awesome, beneficial. Like, you're catering to your kids. Yes?
Is there any additional paperwork required if you're homeschooling a child with special needs? Anything else we have to submit?
So, if it would depend on if the child has an IEP or not.
Okay.
Because if the child has an IEP that you want to keep in place, you do need to find an evaluator that is special education certified to sign off on your objectives. Which I am special ed certified. I haven't probably done it as much as other evaluators have, but could point you in the right direction and help you if you're asking for yourself. Yeah, did you have another question?
I was going to say, I'm actually special ed certified myself, so I was doing the objectives, would I still need to find an evaluator that was?
I believe that you would need to find someone outside of yourself to sign the objectives for your child. Of course. Yes.
So if I were to start in the summer,
Yeah.
will I
So if I wanted to start in the summer, July 1st, I would send in my paperwork and have it dated July 1st. During this, I would send it in to the district by that date and say that your start date is July 1st. They just give you, that leeway, that paperwork for returning homeschoolers need to be in by August 1st, and then first-time homeschoolers by September 1st. Sometimes too, people are deciding through the summer, what they want to do, if they want to stick with the school district or they want to homeschool. So I think that's also why they push it to that date. But I would send it in by July 1st and then start. And you can start counting days. Yes?
If you have an abrupt leave from public school and you're going to start immediately,
Yeah.
just do the same thing, you have to do it right away, the objectives?
Yeah, so what I tell families when they come to me and say that they're going to be leaving the school district in the next couple days. So first you want to make sure, we want to make sure that the child is not recorded as being truant. So the first thing that I would do is I would write my letter to the school district or write my letter to the principal or whomever at the school saying I'm going to pull my child for homeschooling, and then make sure that I immediately get in that notarized affidavit and objectives ASAP, right to the district offices. Yes? Yeah, they're all over down here. Take 20. No, she didn't do that, but I printed 120. I think there's not that. Yes.
So most of the information that you've given is really for younger kids, like elementary age.
Yeah, if you want to learn more about, the evaluation that I do is the same for K through 12, except when they get to 12, if I'm issuing or if I'm signing a diploma, that's different.
So that's good.
So there'll be two things that year.
We'll have a child going into her 12th grade year.
Okay.
And this is our first year.
Okay, so, yeah, we can talk more about that, but I'm happy to guide you through that as well and help you with transcript. I'm assuming she has a transcript from 9th to 11th. You're just creating this transcript for her 12th grade year. We're adding it to that current transcript, and at the end of the year, she would have a regular evaluation, just like a child in any other grade, and then if you're having are you using a diploma program?
We don't really. So
Okay, that's something we could talk about too.
Legally wise, she could actually graduate.
I was just so my next question was how many credits does she have and where are we with that?
She could
Because she
actually
might.
graduate this year, so
Yeah.
we're looking at doing one next year, but.
Okay.
There's still, we gotta pick a diploma program.
So you don't need to do a program. Sometimes people pick a diploma program to kind of do all the work for them, but you don't need to. You as a parent can create a transcript easily, which is just a matter of an Excel. I have that on my Facebook pages too. It's just usually a matter of an Excel file that's been created by someone else that you just plop in the subjects and the grades. And then, so you can grade her objectively or subjectively on different subject areas. And I have kind of a breakdown also of how you do that. Because a lot of people get scared, if I'm not administering tests, how do I give my child a grade for this particular subject as well? So I'd love to talk to you more about, what your plans are and how I could help you find the necessary information and resources. Yeah, because I think you guys are in a little bit of a different boat than some of the other parents that are in here. Yes? A tech school. Yeah.
So, and where I'm at is a half-day tech, so would you be able to do a half-day tech and an homeschool for the?
Yeah, he definitely should be, especially as, so there are some other workshops here today that are talking about current issues in homeschooling and the homeschooling law and how it's changing. There have been a lot of recent changes, especially with how homeschool children can play sports for different schools, how they can go in for parts of the day and take different classes. Me specifically, I don't have any expertise in that yet. I hope to soon, but there are other presenters that will have a wealth of knowledge for you of like, in terms of like, you know, how frequent can your child go in, for how many classes can your child go in, things like that. But I did graduate a boy, or a man, maybe, not last year, but the year before that, that's when he went to tech school. For some of the time, he was homeschooled for the other portion of the time. So it can be done. Okay, just looking at the time here. Okay, so I think other workshops are starting. I could probably go on all day. But the other part of my presentation was mainly homeschool styles and learning styles of children. What I'm going to do is I'm going to post this PowerPoint on my Facebook page. So that QR code that you have in the back, if you go there, become a member, you'll be able to see this PowerPoint. I'll post that today. Really, this is what I wanted to get to. And then anything beyond that was kind of like icing on the cake, like homeschool styles and things like that. Okay? Thank you so much for coming. I hope that you learned something. I hope that I answered all of your questions. And if you need me for anything, I'm here. Text me, call me, email me. I'm happy to answer questions or find out answers for you. And if you don't find out that answer, let me know and I'll find it out for you.
Thank you.
So all my information is on this paper here at the top. If you did, yeah, plenty. Of course.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Yeah.
Everything's on here though.
Yeah.
Facebook and everything too.
Yes, and then on that sheet too, there's all like, a lot of the stuff that I talked about today is on that sheet.